Hello there and welcome to the Bicycle Diaries. If you were watching last week's vlog, you'll know that I went down to my local bike shop to take advantage of the completely free ID match system from Selle Italia to get measured up for a new saddle. Well, the good news is the saddle has now arrived, so let's go out and fit it. Well, here we are with my Cannondale, and the first thing I'm going to do is just measure the height of the saddle down to the crank. So that is 69 centimeters, and that may be because the actual height of the saddle might differ from the one I've got in here at the moment. So the next thing to do is get an Allen key and remove the old saddle. So that's just a question of undoing the bolts and slipping the old saddle off. This particular system has 2 bolts. I think that may have something to do with the way you can just adjust the angle of the saddle once it's sat on there. Obviously, if you increase the tension on this bolt, it will lean forward a little bit more, and if you increase the tension on this bolt, it will lean back a little more. Okay, so that's the old saddle removed. Just put that up there, put that bolt there for safekeeping. Just give this a little bit of a quick clean. Obviously it gets a little muddy, and it's one of these sort of out of the way places on your bike that's a little bit difficult to clean. Okay, so let's put the new saddle on. It just needs to sit in the rails for the minute while you get the bolts in. Let's grab the bolts. And let's start tightening them up. Now, some of the more eagle-eyed of you may have noticed that on the pack this was an L3 saddle when the ID match system recommended an L2 saddle for me. And the reason I have an L3 saddle now is because I ordered a flight boost saddle, but Selle Royale don't actually make a flight boost in L2, so they've sent me an L3, and they've assured me that anyone that can ride an L2 can ride an L3. So yeah, it's just a question of getting this level now. And once it's more or less level, I will fine tune it with these bolts and a spirit level. Yeah, I'm not going to do these up too tight for the minute. Let's go grab the spirit level. Yeah, it's a little high at the end, so I just need to tighten up this at the front here. Now apparently one of the only differences between the L2 and the L3 saddle is the size of the cutout. On an L3 saddle it's going to be a bit bigger than one on an L2 saddle. And when I was watching the Tour de France yesterday, they were all off their bikes, and it was very interesting to see that all of the saddles I saw on the pro
riders all had saddle cutouts. So this has got a saddle cutout, and hopefully I'm in good company. So there we go, that's the saddle level. And you'll also notice that it is quite a way forward, and that's because I need to sit quite a way forward on the saddle or on the bike to get my feet over the pedals. I did try to get an inline seat post, but it seems to be a specialist part specific to Cannondale. They're not standard, so I was unable to get one. And the workaround that I'm doing at the moment is just placing the saddle on the rails as far forward as I can get it. So I'll just do a last couple of turns just to make sure it's tight on there. And it's level, and let's now make sure that it is in fact 69 centimeters down to the crank. Yep, 69 centimeters. So obviously that saddle is the same height as the one on there previously, so see if it's, no, it's not quite pointing forward, so let's just realign the saddle in relation to the top tube. There we go, just tighten that up. And there we go, that's the new saddle fitted. All I need to do now is just go for a very quick ride to test it. Now obviously this isn't going to be a proper test because I'm not in cycling kit or anything, but it will give me a rough idea. My first impression is that the saddle is pretty comfortable. I think it's more or less in the correct position, but I'm not going to know 100% until I get dressed in full cycling kit and go for a proper ride. If you're a regular viewer of this vlog, you'll know that I'm being sent bike lights to test out quite regularly. So it was great yesterday that I was able to try some more out. I left the house for a ride at about 9:30. So it was just getting dark, and it was a great opportunity to test these lights that have been sent to me by a company called Wooben. Now this light is very, very easy and very straightforward to use. It comes in 3 parts. You have the actual light bit here, and that's made of metal. It feels very robust and very high quality. You have the power pack here, and that just attaches to the bike with a bit of a Velcro strap there. And then you have a little remote control unit, and to operate the lights is incredibly easy. You plug it in and you push the button and the light switches on, and there are various levels of light, and they go up and they go down, and if you push one of the buttons twice, I think it flashes. Yeah, there you have a flash mode, and it doesn't get any more complicated than that really. So you just turn the light off there, and the great thing is that you have a little remote control unit. So again, to switch the light on, you can just hit the remote control button, and you can control all the brightness with it, and turn it down again and switch it off. What more do you need? The light is very strong, very powerful. I was able to see where I was going yesterday. Admittedly, it wasn't fully dark, so I would have to give that a proper test, but I was very impressed with this light. And if you want to know some of the numbers, then on the turbo setting, it's 3,600 lumens, and then it goes down on the low setting to 200 lumens. The battery life is about 140 minutes on the high power, and then on the low power it's about 36 hours. It's all IP65 rated, so it's fairly waterproof. And yeah, the weight of it, where are we with the weight? So the light is 164 grams and the battery pack is 395 grams. One of the things that I did find a little bit under par, let's say, was the way this attached to the bike frame. I couldn't get it quite tight enough and it was rattling around a little bit. But it's not too bad. I've seen worse power packs than this, much bigger, much heavier. It comes in a fairly waterproof, sort of rubberized sort of case to it. But I think they may have missed a little bit of a trick here. If you're watching my vlog a couple of weeks ago where I did my 100-kilometer ride, my Karoo ran out of power, and if I had something like this with a little USB outlet on there, then I could have charged the Karoo up as I was cycling along. But all in all, it's a very nice little set of lights, and I really enjoyed using them. A couple of weeks ago I did a solo 100-kilometer ride, and if you were watching it on the vlog, you'll know that I also had a couple of technical issues, mainly the Karoo cycling computer not lasting the entire ride, and I had to save the ride before I finished, and yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. Now, many people on the channel have been asking me, had I not charged the Karoo before I went out on the ride, and here's the computer here. I'll just power it up for you. The answer to that question is yes. When I left the house, the Karoo was fully charged, but even though it was fully charged, it didn't last more than 5.5 hours. Okay, I was running a heart rate sensor and a cadence sensor, and these do take a little bit of extra draw from the battery, but you would have thought that it would have lasted a lot longer. And indeed, the last 100-kilometer ride that I did, which was back in March, it did last. It lasted for more than 6.5 hours, and when I got home there was still about 20% left on the battery. Now, my suspicion is that it's something to do with the firmware updates. The Karoo updates its firmware literally every single week. I'll just turn it off there. And they obviously make little tweaks to the running of the Karoo, and I think they made some adjustment to the power management system, which makes it a little bit more hungry for current and draw on the battery. So that might have something to do with that. It may even be fixed in a future update. Now, the update that they did to the Karoo last week gave it one of these new climbing pages. Basically, the graphics when you do a climb look pretty impressive. I went out to try it last Sunday, but unfortunately it didn't work for me. I think I was doing something wrong, and subsequently I went on to the DC Rainmaker website and he kind of cleared it all up. Essentially what you need to do, you need to have a course running, and then when you get to a climb, the Karoo will automatically switch over to the climb page. Now, the caveat there is that the climb has to be at least 500 meters long, and you have to climb a certain amount of altitude. And I think, according to Ray at DC Rainmaker, if it's a 500 meter climb, that average gradient needs to be about 7%, so quite tough. And yeah, to be honest, I don't think there are many climbs around here that kind of fit that bill. But nevertheless, I kind of know what I'm doing now, so I'll be trying that out, and I hope that it works. Having fitted the saddle, let's go out and try my first proper ride. First 5 kilometers in now, and I'm pleased to say that my first impressions were fairly accurate, in that the saddle is reasonably comfortable, and to be a bit more specific, I feel the back end, so like my buttocks for instance, are quite well supported, and thanks to the cutout and the shorter nose on the saddle, my perineal area isn't under quite so much pressure as it was before, particularly because I sit a little bit further forward to get the right position on the bike. 10 kilometers in now, and yes, I am sort of moving forwards and backwards a little bit on the saddle, but I think that's more to do with just trying to get position over the pedals rather than the saddle being uncomfortable or anything. As far as my saddle sore goes, I am starting to feel it, but it hasn't healed all that well over the last couple of weeks, but it's manageable at the moment, and I'm not sure if that's the saddle or if it's just the saddle sore is getting better. I've been riding for about 40 minutes now, and so far the saddle seems to be still very comfortable, and it still seems to be supporting my weight fairly evenly. I'm actually quite surprised that I haven't had to tinker with anything. Usually when I've fitted something new on the bike, I've had to kind of adjust things on the fly, but so far, no, I've not had to adjust the height of the saddle or the fore and aft position. So I'm very surprised. So far the saddle seems to be doing its job extremely well. Although this saddle is quite firm, it's not so firm that it's transferring all of the road vibrations up into my body. About 3 months ago I was experiencing some numbness in the gentleman's area with the previous saddle, and that's what I put it down to. Now, it did clear itself up all by itself, but so far I'm not experiencing anything like that with this saddle. There we go, that's my first 25 kilometers on my new Selle Italia saddle. And I'm going to give it a provisional thumbs up because it supports in the right way in all the right places, and it doesn't put undue pressure in all the wrong places. It'll be interesting to see how it fares on a much longer ride. If you'd like more information about my saddle fit, click on the video that's coming up in the end screen in a few seconds, and if you've enjoyed this vlog, please like and share and consider subscribing because it really does help the channel out. Thanks for watching.